The sound was quiet, almost careful, like they were trying not to wake something fragile. But I was awake. I had been awake since 4 a.m, staring at the ceiling with my stomach twisted into knots that had nothing to do with nerves about the game. I knew what that sound meant. I knew where they were going. And I knew it wasn't to watch me play. My first varsity match. 15 years old, and I'd made the starting lineup as a freshman. Coach Rivera had pulled me aside after practice 3 days ago, her hand firm on my shoulder, eyes serious. "You've earned this, Helena. Your speed, your vision on the field. You're special. Your family's going to be so proud." I'd nodded, smile bright, heart soaring. Rushed home to tell them at dinner. Mum had looked up from her phone. "That's nice, honey." Dad had grunted something that might have been congratulations. And Violet, my older sister, the golden child, the centre of every conversation, had frowned into her soup. "Actually, there's this pop-up sale at the mall on Saturday. Limited edition designer sneakers. I've been waiting 3 months for this drop." The table had gone quiet. "My game is Saturday," I'd said softly. 2:00. "The sale ends at noon," Violet had countered, her voice taking on that whining edge that always worked. "If we don't get there early, they'll sell out. Mum, Dad, you promised you'd take me, remember? You said after I got accepted to state, I could get something special." Mum had reached over, squeezing Violet's hand. "Of course we remember, sweetheart. We'll make it work." I'd looked at Dad. He'd avoided my eyes. "We'll try to catch the second half," Mum had offered, her tone already distracted, already planning the logistics of Violet's shopping trip. I'd stopped eating. The food tasted like cardboard anyway. Now, Saturday morning, they were gone. The house was empty except for me and the sound of my own breathing. I checked my phone. No messages, no "good luck", no "we'll be there soon". I sat on the edge of my bed, cleats on hardwood floor, hands trembling. This was supposed to be different. This was supposed to matter. I'd worked for 2 years to make varsity as a freshman. 2 years of early morning runs, extra drills after practice, sacrificing weekends and social life. 2 years of watching Violet get everything, the attention, the praise, the college acceptance celebrations that lasted weeks, while I stayed quiet, stayed out of the way, stayed grateful for scraps. I told myself that when I finally did something undeniable, something they couldn't ignore, everything would change. But the car was gone, and I was alone. I stood slowly, legs feeling distant and strange. My jersey hung in the closet, number 7, my last name printed across the shoulders in bold letters. I pulled it on. The fabric was stiff and new. I looked at myself in the mirror, small, dark hair pulled back tight, eyes that looked too old for my face. "It's fine," I whispered to my reflection. "You don't need them there." But my voice cracked on the last word. I drove myself to the field in the old sedan they'd given me when Violet got her new car. The air conditioning didn't work. The radio was broken. But it ran, and that was enough. I parked in the far lot and walked to the locker room with my duffel bag slung over one shoulder, trying to ignore the knot in my chest that kept tightening. My teammates were already there, loud and electric with pre-game energy. They were stretching, joking, blasting music from someone's portable speaker. I changed quietly in the corner, pulling on shin guards and double-knotting my laces. "Helena!" Jenna, our captain, jogged over. "You ready? First start, freshman phenom. Your parents must be freaking out." I managed to smile. "Yeah, they're excited." "Where are they sitting? I want to wave to them after we score." "Not sure yet. They might be running late." Jenna squeezed my shoulder and jogged off to rallying the team. I finished dressing in silence. The game started at 2. By 1:45, I was warming up on the sideline, scanning the bleachers with each passing minute. Parents were arriving, filling the seats with coolers and blankets and cameras. I saw Jenna's whole family, her mum holding a painted sign. I saw our goalkeeper's dad setting up a tripod for his video camera. I didn't see mine. Coach Rivera called us into a huddle. She went over the game plan, her voice steady and confident. I tried to focus, tried to let her words anchor me. But my eyes kept drifting to the parking lot. The whistle blew. We took the field. I played the entire first half in a haze. My body moved on instinct, running, positioning, calling for the ball. But my mind was somewhere else, somewhere stuck in that dining room, watching Violet pout over designer shoes, while my achievements dissolved into background noise. At halftime, we were up 1-0. I hadn't scored, but I'd assisted the goal, threading a perfect pass through two defenders. My teammates were celebrating, slapping my back, shouting my name. I checked my phone. One message from Mum. Running behind, the line was longer than expected. We'll get there. No timestamp on when they'd arrive. No apology. Just a promise as hollow as all the others. I didn't respond. The second half was different. Something in me had gone cold and clear. I stopped looking at the bleachers. I stopped waiting. I played like I was alone on the field, like the only thing that mattered was the ball and the goal and the perfect geometry of the game. I scored twice. The first goal came in the 53rd minute, a breakaway where I outran their defence and slotted the ball low past the keeper's outstretched hands. The second came 10 minutes later, a header off a corner kick that felt like pure violence and grace combined. Each time my teammates mobbed me. Each time I smiled and hugged them back. But inside, I felt nothing. Just that cold, clear certainty that I was doing this alone. That I had always been doing it alone. We won 3-0. After the game, Coach Rivera pulled me aside again. Her eyes were bright. "Helena, that was extraordinary. You played like a completely different person in that second half. I don't know what switched, but keep that fire. You're going places, kid." I nodded, thanked her, went to the locker room and changed slowly while my teammates celebrated around me. My phone buzzed. "So sorry we missed it. Violet found the perfect shoes though. You should see them. How did it go?" I stared at the message for a long time. Then I turned off my phone and drove home. They were in the living room when I walked in, shopping bags scattered across the couch. Violet was showing Mum her new sneakers. White leather with gold accents, expensive and pristine. Dad was watching a game on TV. "Helena!" Mum looked up, smiling brightly. "How was the match? Did you play?" "We won," I said flatly. 3-0. I scored twice." "Oh, that's wonderful, honey." Her attention was already drifting back to Violet's shoes. "We're so proud of you." Dad glanced over. "Good job, kid." Violet didn't even look up. I stood there, jersey still on, grass stains on my knees, and felt something inside me crack. Not break, cracked a clean final. This was slower, a fracturing that would spread and spread until there was nothing left to hold me together. "I'm going to my room," I said. Nobody stopped me. I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling again, and felt the weight of it all pressing down on my chest. The years of being second. The years of watching Violet get everything while I got the leftovers of their attention. The years of telling myself that if I just worked harder, achieved more, proved myself undeniable, they would finally see me. But they wouldn't. They never would. I closed my eyes and felt tears slip down my temples into my hair. I didn't make a sound. I'd learned a long time ago that crying loud enough to be heard only made things worse. It made them uncomfortable. It made me a burden. So I cried silently, alone in the dark, until I couldn't cry anymore. And then I just lay there, hollow and exhausted, waiting for sleep that wouldn't come. The weeks that followed blurred together. More games, more goals, more achievements that dissolved into the background of Violet's college preparations and social calendar. I stopped telling them when I played. I stopped expecting them to ask. I became a ghost in my own house, moving through rooms without leaving a trace. Junior year came and went, senior year started, college scouts began showing up to my games, full ride scholarship offers arrived in the mail. Coach Rivera said I had a future in professional soccer if I wanted it. I wanted it. It was the only thing I wanted. But my body was tired. Not from the sport, from carrying the weight of invisibility. From smiling through another family dinner where Violet's latest accomplishment took up all the oxygen in the room. From watching them hang her college acceptance letter on the fridge while my state championship medal sat in a drawer. I started getting headaches. Sharp, sudden things that would split my vision and leave me nauseous. I didn't tell anyone. I took ibuprofen and kept playing. Then one day at practice, the headache came back worse than ever. The world tilted. Coach Rivera's voice sounded far away. I felt my knees buckle, felt the grass rush up to meet me. Everything went dark. I woke up in a hospital bed. White ceiling, antiseptic smell, the steady beep of monitors. A doctor was talking to my parents in hushed tones outside the room. I caught fragments. Aneurysm, inoperable, time, not much time, Mum was crying. Dad's voice was low and shaken. Violet was silent. I closed my eyes and felt something like relief wash over me. Finally an ending. Finally a way out of the exhaustion. They came in after the doctor left. Mum's eyes were red. Dad looked smaller somehow, diminished. Violet stood in the corner, pale and uncertain. "Helena," Mum whispered, taking my hand. "Why didn't you tell us you were having headaches?" "Because you never asked," I thought. "Because you never noticed." But I said, "I didn't think it was serious." She squeezed my hand and started crying again. I let her hold my fingers and felt nothing. Even now, even with death sitting in the room with us, I couldn't summon the energy to comfort her, to make this easier for them. I was so tired. The next few days were a parade of specialists and second opinions and desperate hopes that all led nowhere. The aneurysm was deep, wrapped around vital structures. Surgery would kill me faster than waiting. So we waited. Violet visited every day. She sat by my bed, talking about nothing. Classes, friends, the weather. She never mentioned the shoes. She never mentioned all the times they'd chosen her over me. She just sat there, desperate and helpless, watching me fade. I wanted to hate her for it, but I was too tired even for that. Mum and Dad hovered, attentive in a way they'd never been before, making sure I was comfortable, bringing me books and magazines, asking what I wanted to eat. All the care I'd craved for years, arriving now when it was too late to matter. I accepted it with quiet politeness. I smiled when they needed me to smile. I told them I wasn't scared. I was lying. I was terrified. Not of death, but of dying without ever having been truly seen, of disappearing from a family that had never fully noticed I was there. One night, alone in my hospital room, I stared out the window at the distant lights of the city and felt the tears come again, silent, hot, inevitable. "I just wanted you to see me," I whispered to no one. Just once. 2 weeks after the diagnosis, I died. It was quiet, painless. I fell asleep one evening and simply didn't wake up. The monitors beeped their alarm, nurses rushed in, but I was already gone, floating somewhere above it all, watching them try to pull me back. Then everything went dark. And then, light. I opened my eyes to sunlight streaming through familiar curtains. My room. My bed. My body, small and healthy and alive. I sat up slowly, heart pounding, hands shaking. I looked around. Posters on the walls I'd taken down years ago. Textbooks from freshman year stacked on my desk. A calendar showing September, 8 years in the past. I was 14 again. The memories crashed over me all at once. The first life, the invisibility, the aneurysm, the death, all of it sharp and clear and undeniable. And underneath those memories, a new clarity, a cold, calm understanding. I had been given another chance, not to fix things, not to win their love, but to live for myself, to stop waiting for recognition that would never come, to stop breaking myself against the wall of their indifference. This time, I would be different. I got out of bed and looked at myself in the mirror. Younger face, uncertain eyes, body not yet shaped by years of athletic training. But underneath, I was different, changed. The pain of the first life had burned away everything soft and desperate. What remained was steel. I smiled at my reflection. It didn't reach my eyes. Downstairs, I could hear the familiar sounds of Saturday morning. Mum making coffee, Dad reading the paper, Violet's voice drifting from her room. I took a breath and walked down. They looked up when I entered the kitchen. "Morning, sleepyhead," Mum said, smiling. "Good, you're up early." "Couldn't sleep," I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. Steadier, older. I poured myself cereal and sat at the table. Violet wandered in, still in pyjamas, scrolling through her phone. "There's this amazing sale at the mall next weekend," she said, not looking up. "Designer sneaker drop. Mum, Dad, can we go? Please?" I froze, spoon halfway to my mouth. This conversation. I knew this conversation. "When?" Dad asked. "Saturday. It ends at noon, so we'd have to go early." My mind raced. In the first life, this was the day everything started. The day they missed my first varsity match. The day I learned exactly where I stood. But I wasn't on varsity yet. That tryout was next week. I had a choice. I could try out, make the team, earn my starting position, repeat the same pattern, hoping for a different result. Or I could walk away, choose something else. Something they couldn't ignore or diminish or forget. I set down my spoon carefully. "I'm thinking about not trying out for soccer," I said. The table went silent. All three of them looked at me. "What?" Mum frowned. "But you love soccer. You've been playing since you were 6. "I know," I met her eyes. "But I'm thinking about focusing on other things. Academics, maybe, or music." Violet snorted. "Since when do you care about music?" "Since now." The truth was, I didn't care about music. I cared about control. In the first life, I'd given them my heart, my passion, my achievements, my desperate need for approval, and they'd trampled it casually, thoughtlessly, because it was always there, always available, always waiting. This time, I would give them nothing. I would be pleasant and polite and completely self-contained. I would build a life they couldn't touch. Dad was watching me with something like concern. "Is everything okay, Helena? You seem different." "I'm fine," I smiled, just thinking about my future. I didn't try out for soccer. Instead, I joined the debate team, picked up piano, started submitting short stories to literary magazines. I threw myself into pursuits that were quiet, individual, and completely under my control. Mum and Dad seemed confused at first, then relieved. A daughter who stayed home on weekends was easier to manage than one who needed rides to practices and games. Violet certainly didn't mind. It meant more time and attention for her. I didn't mind either. I was learning to find satisfaction in achievement for its own sake. Not for praise or recognition, but for the simple, clean pleasure of doing something well. Months passed. I won my first debate tournament, placed in a national piano competition, had a story published in a prestigious youth anthology. I told them about these things politely at dinner. They congratulated me politely in return. But there was no celebration, no fridge magnets, no proud calls to relatives, and I didn't care. I'd stopped needing their approval. It felt like shedding a heavy coat I'd worn my whole life without realizing how much it weighed. Sophomore year came. Violet was a senior, consumed with college applications and scholarship interviews. She'd always been smart, always been charming, and now she was reaping the rewards. Harvard sent a recruitment letter. So did Yale. Mum and Dad were ecstatic. Dinner conversation became a running commentary on Violet's glowing future. I listened with detached interest, occasionally offering input, mostly staying quiet. One evening, Dad looked over at me. "How are your grades, Helena?" "Perfect," I said. 4.0 GPA, advanced placement classes, scoring in the 99th percentile on all standardized tests. He blinked. "Really?" "Really. That's great, honey." He exchanged a glance with Mum. "We didn't realize you were doing so well." "You didn't ask." The words came out flat and simple, not accusing, just factual. Awkward silence settled over the table. Violet pushed her food around her plate. Mum cleared her throat. "Well," she said, voice bright with forced cheer, "we're asking now. Tell us about school." "Everything's fine," I said. "May I be excused?" I left them, sitting there confused and uncomfortable, and felt a small, cold satisfaction settle in my chest. Junior year brought more accolades. Debate captain, first place at the state piano competition, a full-length story published in a magazine that paid actual money. Early recruitment letters from colleges started arriving. Princeton, Stanford, MIT. I didn't show them to my parents. I stacked them neatly in my desk drawer and responded on my own. Meanwhile, Violet had chosen Harvard. The house became a shrine to her achievement. Her acceptance letter framed, her Harvard sweatshirt worn constantly, plans for her going-away party discussed endlessly. I watched it all from a distance, the way you might watch strangers at a train station, interested but uninvolved. "You should be proud of your sister," Mum said to me one day. "I am," I replied, and I meant it. I was proud. Violet had worked hard. She deserved her success. I just didn't need to make it my identity anymore. Summer before senior year, I attended a prestigious writing workshop in Vermont. 3 weeks immersed in craft and criticism, and the company of other young writers who understood that words could be refuge and weapon, both. I came home different again, sharper, more certain. Senior year began. College applications loomed. I had my choice of schools, full rides to several, substantial scholarships to the rest. I chose Stanford, West Coast, far from home, known for both academics and innovation. I told my parents at dinner one October evening. "Stanford offered me a full scholarship," I said calmly. "Tuition, room, board, plus a stipend for research. I accepted." Dad nearly choked on his water. "You what?" "I accepted. I start next fall." Mum was staring at me. "Helena, this is huge. Why didn't you tell us you were applying? Why didn't you tell us when the offer came?" "I'm telling you now." Violet, home for fall break, looked genuinely shocked. "Stanford? That's incredible, Helena. Seriously, congratulations." "Thank you." The conversation moved on, awkward and stilted. They asked questions I answered briefly. They tried to summon enthusiasm that came too late and felt hollow. I excused myself early and went to my room, where I sat at my desk and finished editing a story about a girl who disappeared so slowly that no one noticed she was gone until she wasn't. The months that followed were strange. My parents seemed to be seeing me for the first time, and they didn't quite know what to do with what they saw. I was polite but distant, accomplished but untouchable. I answered their questions, accepted their belated attempts at involvement, and gave them nothing real. Because the real me, the one who had died alone and invisible, the one who had been reborn into clarity, that version wasn't for them. That version belonged to me alone. One evening in March, Mum knocked on my door. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Of course." I set aside my laptop. She sat on the edge of my bed, hands twisting in her lap. "I've been thinking a lot lately about you, about how I haven't been as present as I should have been." I waited. "You've always been so independent, so self-sufficient. I think I told myself you didn't need as much attention, that you were fine on your own, but watching you now, seeing how far you've come without us really being part of it," her voice cracked. "I'm sorry, Helena. I'm sorry I didn't see you sooner." I looked at her, really looked. Saw the regret, the guilt, the desperate hope that it wasn't too late. In my first life, I would have collapsed into this moment, forgiven everything, accepted the crumbs of recognition, been grateful for finally being seen. But I'd died for that gratitude, and I'd been reborn into something colder. "I appreciate you saying that," I said gently, "but I'm okay. I've learnt to rely on myself. It's made me stronger." "I know, but, Mom," I kept my voice soft, "I'm not angry. I'm really not, but I also don't need things to change now. I've built something good for myself. I'm happy." She looked stricken. "You don't want a relationship with us?" "I didn't say that. I'm just saying I don't need you to be what you weren't. I've moved past needing that." The truth of it hung in the air between us. I saw her realise what I was really saying. That her apology, however sincere, couldn't undo the years of absence. Couldn't rewrite the story of a daughter who learned to thrive in the margins because there was no room for her in the centre. She left my room quietly. I went back to my laptop and kept writing. Graduation came. I gave the valedictorian speech, something I'd earned through sheer academic excellence, not through any particular love of school leadership. My parents sat in the audience, visibly proud, visibly confused about when their quiet younger daughter had become this. Violet flew in from Harvard. She hugged me after the ceremony, holding on longer than necessary. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for all the times I didn't see how much you were doing, how much you were dealing with." I hugged her back. "You were just being yourself. That's not something to apologise for." Still, she pulled back, eyes wet. "You deserved better from all of us." "Maybe," I said, "but I'm okay now." And I was. I really was. That summer before Stanford, something unexpected happened. Coach Rivera tracked me down at a coffee shop where I was working on a story. "Helena," she said, sliding into the seat across from me, "I heard you're not playing soccer anymore." "Haven't for years," I confirmed. "That's a tragedy. You had real talent. I've never seen a freshman play like you did in..." She paused. "Well, I guess you never did have that freshman season, did you?" I looked at her sharply. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you quit before tryouts. I always wondered why. You'd been preparing for years." Different timeline, I realised. In this life, I'd never made varsity. Never played that first match. Never scored those goals. "I chose different priorities," I said simply. She nodded slowly. "I respect that, but I want you to know, if you ever want to play again, just for the love of it, there's a club league in the area. Adults, no pressure, just good soccer. I think you'd enjoy it." I thanked her and said I'd think about it. But the truth was, I didn't need soccer anymore. Didn't need the validation of athletic achievement or the hope that maybe this time they'd show up. I had found other ways to matter, ways that belonged to me alone. Still, a week before I left for Stanford, I drove past the soccer field on a whim. The same field where, in another life, I'd played my heart out for an empty bleacher section. I parked and walked to the fence, watching a summer league game in progress. Young girls, maybe 13 or 14, running and laughing and fighting for the ball with unselfconscious joy. I remembered that joy. remembered how it felt before it became complicated by need and neglect. One of the girls broke away on a beautiful run, outpacing her defenders, and scored with a clean strike that had the whole sideline erupting. Her parents were jumping up and down, screaming her name, filming on their phones. I watched them celebrate her, and I felt nothing but a distant, abstract gladness that she had what I hadn't. Then I turned and walked back to my car. That night, my family took me to dinner for my going-away celebration. It was nice. Awkward in places, but nice. Dad made a toast about how proud they were. Mum got teary. Violet gave me a leather journal embossed with Stanford on the cover. "For all your stories," she said. I thanked them all sincerely, because I was grateful not for the attention I'd craved in my first life, but for the life I'd built in its absence, the strength I'd forged in being overlooked, the self-sufficiency that had become my foundation. "Speech," Dad said, raising his glass. I stood glass in hand and looked at the three of them. My family. The people who had loved me imperfectly, who had failed me in ways they barely understood, who were now trying desperately to make up for lost time. "Thank you for being here," I said simply. "Thank you for supporting me, even when you didn't fully understand what I was doing. I know I've been different these past few years. More independent, maybe. Less open. But it's helped me become who I needed to be." I paused, choosing my next words carefully. "I'm not the daughter you expected. I'm not the daughter you knew when I was younger. But I'm the daughter I'm proud to be. And I hope that's enough." Mum was crying. Dad nodded, throat working. Violet reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "It's more than enough," Mum whispered. We finished dinner in quiet conversation. Pleasant, surface level, careful. The kind of relationship I'd chosen to maintain. Cordial but bounded, warm but self-protected. I left for Stanford 2 days later. Mum and Dad drove with me to the airport. Violet had already gone back to Harvard. At the security checkpoint, Mum hugged me tight. "Call us when you land. Call us often." "I will," I promised. Dad hugged me too, gruff and brief. "Proud of you, kid. Always have been." I wanted to believe him. Part of me did believe him. But the larger part, the part that had lived and died and been reborn, knew that pride and presence weren't the same thing. "Thanks, Dad." I walked through security without looking back. On the plane, I pulled out the journal Violet had given me and opened to the first page. Stared at the blank expanse of cream-coloured paper. In my first life, I had poured everything into soccer. Into being exceptional, undeniable, worthy of notice. And I had died invisible anyway. In this life, I had built something different. Something quieter, but stronger. I had learned that the most powerful thing you can do is stop waiting for someone else to validate your worth. I uncapped my pen and began to write, not about soccer, not about the family I'd left behind or the recognition I'd stopped needing. I wrote about a girl who discovered she could disappear, not in a tragic way, but in a powerful one, who learned that invisibility could be armor, that being overlooked meant being free. I wrote about rebirth, about the death of desperate need and the rise of self-possession. I wrote until the plane began its descent into San Francisco, until the flight attendant asked me to put my tray table up, until the California coast appeared below, golden and vast and wholly mine. When I stepped off the plane into the bright airport terminal, phone buzzing with welcome messages from my new roommate, campus orientation reminders, and a text from Mum asking if I'd landed safely, I felt something settle into place. Peace. Not the kind that comes from resolution or reconciliation, the kind that comes from acceptance. I had been reborn into this life with full memory of my first one, with the pain of invisibility and the clarity it brought. And I had used that second chance not to win their love, but to stop needing it. That was my victory. Quiet, private, absolute. I texted Mum back, landed safe, love you. And I meant it. I did love them. But I loved myself more. I shouldered my backpack and walked toward baggage claim, toward my new life, toward a future built on my own terms. Behind me, the past dissolved like morning fog. Ahead, everything was possibility, and I was finally, completely free.